Earlier this year, I sat down to decide the remaining Versus videos I would be making in what's left of my Pokemon Yellow series. During this process, I took your feedback into consideration, and one pairing that was suggested frequently was Rhydon versus Golem. After all, in the competitive format, these two are the top dogs of the ground type. If you want to know why, check out Big Yellow's fantastic video, I've left a link in the description. But solo challenge speedruns are a very different format. In this universe, things like growth rate matter, and that's the major difference between these two Pokemon. Golem is medium slow, and for solo challenges this is the best growth rate, whereas Rhydon is the slow growth rate, which for solo challenges is definitely the worst. That is, unless your Pokemon has some truly legendary stats to compensate. For that reason alone, I didn't think these two would make a good pairing. Despite Golem's lower stats, its growth rate gives it such an advantage that it's obviously going to be better at soloing the game. I will have to prove that at some point. After all, my previous video featuring it came out in the summer of 2021. Back then, I had no idea how to play Pokemon Yellow quickly. Who knows when I'll get around to that. After all, I am very busy at the current time. I'm a YouTuber, so I need to cash in on those sweet December ad rates after all. Because I crammed so much work into this 1 month, there isn't time to make another Versus video even if I wanted to. So today, let's focus exclusively on Rhydon and see what results it can achieve in a solo playthrough of Pokemon Yellow. Playthrough rules are in the description. For base stats, Rhydon has 105 HP, 130 attack, 120 defense, 45 special, and 40 speed, giving it a 7.81% chance to crit. With its rock ground typing and low special, anytime it gets hit by a water or grass move, it's essentially done for, but other than that it should be quite capable. After all, this thing has a fantastic move pool. It starts with Horn Attack, Stomp, Tail Whip, and Fury Attack. Not a great set to defeat Brock, but my rock type is going to help me with that. Through level up it gets only normal moves, which is kind of weird, and some of them are really bad, like Horn Drill at level 48. While this is supposed to be a devastating one-hit KO move, if you are slower than the target, it just fails, and Rhydon is rarely going to be outspeeding. All of the fantastic moves Rhydon learns are through TM and HM. It gets Mega Punch and Mega Kick, Body Slam, Takedown, Double Edge, so basically all of the useful normal type damage dealing moves. It also gets Bubble Beam and Water Gun, Ice Beam, Blizzard, all three of the fighting type moves, Thunderbolt, Thunder, all three of the ground type moves, Fire Blast, Rock Slide, and even Surf. The move pools in Generation 1 seemed to have been designed around themes, like what would eggs be able to use? Well, Barrage and Egg Bomb. That makes sense. But with Rhydon, it just doesn't seem like the developers took this same approach. If you didn't already know, in the game, the Pokemon are sorted by an index number, which is different from their Pokedex number, and Rhydon is number 1. This suggests, and there's a lot of supporting evidence for the fact that it was the first Pokemon ever designed. I wonder if maybe earlier on it was a normal type, and so they gave it a similar set, and then later they changed it, but didn't really revise its move pool that much. Either way, it's not worth complaining about. Rhydon has a lot of options, and I am thankful for that. Now, let's talk about the strategy for Brock. Rhydon is going to be faster than the Geodude, and because I'm moving first, I will be able to flinch it using Stomp. I can also use Tail Whip to lower its defense stat in order to knock it out faster. With Rhydon, I don't have to worry about running out of PP because Horn Attack is the same base power as Stomp. Also, if Onix is using Bide, I can still attack by using Fury Attack. With multi-hit moves, only the first hit is counted towards Bide's accumulation. Also, Rhydon resists all of Brock's attacks because he only has normal moves in Generation 1. I didn't think I needed to do any extended training, so at level 10, I felt Rhydon was ready. Let's see how much Stomp does to Geodude. Honestly, not very much, but I do cause a flinch, which is great. Also, every time my opponent attacks, it's only doing 1 damage. I figured lowering its defense with Tail Whip twice, and then using Stomp would be the best bet. Accidentally, I used Fury Attack. It doesn't do that much, but I get a 5 hit, so it takes Geodude to low orange health. Because of that, I only need 1 more Stomp, and his lead goes down. Next is Onix. I decided to just go for the Tail Whips right away here, not wasting any time. Once I get it to -6, I start dealing damage with Fury Attack. This is the safe choice. Using Stomp would be reckless, because then when the Onix uses Bide, Rhydon will take a lot of damage when it unleashes energy. The Onyx does go for Bide right away, and since I know how this interaction plays out, I can just keep using Fury Attack and not waste time. While Rhydon does sustain decent damage, it's not enough to give Brock the win, and I stomp Onyx into oblivion. The first gym battle being fairly straightforward is a relief, because coming up next is Misty, and I expect this will be one of the greatest challenges Rhydon has. Water-type moves deal super effective damage to both ground and rock types, so Rhydon takes 4 times damage from Misty's same type moves. Complicating everything is the fact that Rhydon is very slow. The Staryu has 38 speed, and the Starmie has 56. Misty has AI modification 3, which means she is always going to be picking water-type moves against Rhydon. There's one exception to this, which is if her AI decides to use an X-Defend instead of attacking. She has 1 item per Pokemon and a 25% chance to use it on each turn. I hope all of us can agree that it's too much of a gamble to wait for her to do this on both of her Pokemon. Plus, with the X-Defend, Rhydon will be less likely to one-shot them, and it's going to need to. Because of these factors, my only viable strategy is to level up until Rhydon has 39 speed. This is gonna take quite a while, so I need to face a lot of optional trainers. Last year when I played the game with Rhyhorn, it needed to be level 32 in order to outspeed Misty. That said, Rhyhorn has much less base speed, a total of 25. That makes Rhydon's 40 look very impressive. An even slower Pokemon with the same typing, Geodude, took level 36 in order to beat Misty. I realize now that I am still comparing these two lines, I should probably stop doing that for the rest of the video. Inside Mount Moon, I pick up the TM for Water Gun, which will be useful in my training. Then, I fight 4 trainers, the last with Clefairy, the Rocket down the first ladder. He has 3 Pokemon, so decent experience yields. After that, I fight the standard Super Nerd, and then the Bug Catcher. So far in the cave, I've fought every optional trainer, but before the next one, I really want to save, because she does have Grass-type moves. Her first Pokemon is Oddish, it knows Absorb, that's its only move, so it's always going to hit for 4 times damage. Fortunately for Rhydon, it is leveled up enough, and Stomp is able to one-hit both of these Pokemon. Continuing through the cave, I go down the next ladder, fight the Rocket, grab myself the Ether, as well as the TM for Mega Punch, which I'm going to teach right away in the place of Fury Attack. I continue my training against the Youngster, the Hiker, who I use Water Gun against, and then the optional Rocket on the basement floor. This training leads me to the 2 mandatory trainers in the cave, the Super Nerd, as well as Jesse and James. By the time I defeat them and they blast off, my Rhydon is level 19 with 28 speed. As I walked towards Cerulean City, there wasn't a choice to make. The only path forward is to face the rival on Nugget Bridge. This fight has the potential to be quite difficult for Rhydon. The Spearow can lower my attack stat using Growl, and the Sandshrew can mess me up with Sand Attack. That said, I resist all of his damage dealing moves, so I think Rhydon would have to get quite unlucky to lose here. The first turn is the opposite of that. The Spearow lowers my defense, which I don't really care about, and then Mega Punch gets a critical hit. While playing this challenge, I got really excited every time Rhydon would get a critical hit. After all, it is slow. But that's quite irrational because Rhydon's crit rate is actually higher than the base crit rate in Generation 2. Okay, so Sandshrew is next. The fact that I have Water Gun means I do have super effective damage against it. But I didn't think the special move would do more. After all, my attack stat is 77 after Brock's badge boost, and my special stat is 29. I decided to use Stomp, and in this case it crits again and also flinches the Sandshrew, so I knock it out for free, and from there the battle is simple. In the following footage, I have removed all of the battles. I did this so we can more easily track my speed stats growth over these 2 routes. After Nugget Bridge, which is Route 24, it is 31. There are a total of 4 mandatory trainers on my way to Bill's house, and I'm only going to fight them. The reason is I wanted to go to the SS Anne before facing Misty anyways. While I was playing this portion of the run, I thought it would be a little bit overkill to do more training here. Going to Vermilion City quickly also is an advantage for my training, because then I will have access to Diglett's Tunnel. By knocking out the fast ground types, I gain more speed stat experience, and I'll get to 39 just a little bit faster. After reaching Bill's house, I have to face the Bystander Rocket outside of Cerulean City. This battle is easy for Rhydon, but it's notable because he gives you the TM for Dig. In Generation 1, this move has 100 base power, so it's essentially just Earthquake over 2 turns. I teach it to Rhydon in the place of Stomp because that move was out of PP, and I'm not going to be going to the center before I head back to Cerulean City. Sandy's next, but Horn Attack is able to one-hit her Pidgeys, so there's no risk of Sand Attack. On the SS Anne, I'm going to defeat the Sailor and get the TM for Rest, just in case I need it later in the game. I'll also pick up the TM for Body Slam and teach this to Rhydon in the place of Mega Punch. Next is the rival, but he's going to be very simple because my new moveset is very strong. As I knock out his Eevee, Rhydon gets enough experience to level up to 25, and here it has 37 speed. If I defeat Diglets until level 26, then I'll definitely have 39 speed. That said, I decided to play a bit risky and journey back to Misty now. Here, what I'm banking on is the fact that Rhydon is fully evolved. It is nothing like a weak first stage Pokemon, Geodude for example. No, I made the comparison again. Anyways, Rhydon is fully evolved, its stats are better, maybe, just maybe it can defeat Misty. Staryu starts things off with a Water Gun, which does just under half to Rhydon. Okay, so we'll dig one hit. Well, after an X-Defend, it does. Hooray, Starmie is next. I was hoping for Water Gun here or an X-Defend, but it chooses Bubble Beam and Rhydon faints. Okay, I was wrong to get too excited about this thing. Let's do some training. I fight the swimmer in the gym, and then I go back to Nugget Bridge to fight some of the trainers that are here to gain enough experience to level up to 26. Are you kidding me? Rhydon only has 38 speed? That's definitely the consequence for not fighting any Diglett. Either way, I can just use one rare candy to go up to level 27, where now I can move first against Misty's Staryu and knock it out in one turn. I have to wait for Starmie to use Water Gun. It does right away. Rhydon survives, hits with Dig, and Misty's ace faints. That win is a big relief because Misty was definitely one of Rhydon's biggest threats. Looking forward into the playthrough, both Erica and Lorelei are just not going to be as challenging due to the fact that you can put off Erica for a long time, and then Rock Slide is going to be super effective against Lorelei's Pokemon. Those are two major advantages that I did not have when facing Misty. Now we'll just keep the victory music rolling because Surge is next, and yeah, he does not deserve better today. With Surge defeated, I have a boost to my already great defense stat, and now I'm heading towards Lavender Town. The first trainer in my way is the Rapping Lass, but she's not going to be problematic because my damage is just too much for her Pokemon. Inside Rock Tunnel's entrance is Slowbone. The Cubone's Bone Club is super effective, but because of my defense stat, it does almost nothing, and I knock it out in 2 turns. Also, the Slowpoke doesn't know any water-type moves, which is the same case for all of the other ones in the tunnel. As a result, Rhydon does not have issues here. You might be worried about the status condition junior trainer, but both of her Pokemon are one-shots with Body Slam. At the end of the cave waits the self-destructing hiker, but I have Water Gun, so I can just one-hit all of his rock ground types. And with that, Rhydon has made it to Celadon City. My first task here is to explore the Rocket Hideout because I really want to pick up the extra rare candy. In the department store, I trade this girl a soda pop to get access to the TM for Rock Slide, and then I had to decide which vitamins to purchase. Initially, I was going to go for 5 protein, figuring that Rhydon's speed was kind of unforgivably bad. But then I realized it is 44, and if I use 5 Carbos, I will outspeed the Ghastly and Pokemon Tower, making those battles more consistent. I teach Rhydon Rock Slide in the place of Water Gun, and then I go up against the rival for the 4th time. His lead is Fearow, and this is why Rock Slide was immediately useful. Also, I should mention the fact that Rock and Ground moves pair very well together in Generation 1. I now, with same type attack bonus moves, have neutral damage against every single target in the game. The only disadvantage is that Rhydon can miss against the Pokemon it's using Rock Slide to knock out. Needless to say, the rival here is not an issue at all. Agatha Jr. is trivial for Rhydon to defeat, and that leads me to Cycling Road. I filmed this first playthrough on August 16th, so you can see that I don't really know which trainers I should be fighting. The only battle I participate in here is against the Biker with 5 Pokemon. This one is good experience yield, so I'm glad I did it. If you're wondering when I'm going to run out of backlogged footage, it's not going to happen during December because I filmed all these runs very early into the year just to make sure that I would be able to manage the production load. I cannot tell you how much planning I did throughout the year to ensure that December was going to be really exciting. I do understand though if you don't think it's a perfect month just because Golem isn't in this video. Sometimes I'm kind of a robot and I can't diverge from my plan even as I approach my goal. For example, once I said I was going to do a Rhydon solo video, I just couldn't put Golem in it. It felt so wrong. And we can also see that robotic behavior here because usually when I dig out of the Safari Zone, I immediately face Erica. And yeah, that's what I do today, even though that's probably not a very good idea with a level 33 Rhydon. I am faster than all of her Pokemon. The Tangela could lower my speed with Constrict, but that's if it survives a hit. And it doesn't because Rhydon crits with Rock Slide. Editor Scott here, just to correct that statement. The Tangela will never use Constrict because it's only going to use Grass-type moves. Because of that, I'm definitely going to win this fight. Dig is neutral against the Weepinbell because it's part Poison-type and I one-shot, and following that, the Gloom is no different. Now, while I had enough speed in the Grass Gym, I don't in the Poison Gym because, strangely, here the gym trainers have a lot of Psychic types on their team. I can one-hit all of the first Juggler's Drowsy, but the Kadabra moves first, hits Psybeam, and does half. Okay, that was with a critical hit. He juggles his Pokemon, switching in the Drowsy, Kadabra comes back out, and it goes for Confusion, taking Rhyhorn down to 37 hit points. Honestly, this fight was kind of scary. Before the next Juggler in the gym, I ensure that I save the game, just in case I have a reset here. After all, this guy's first Pokemon, Drowsy, does know Psychic. That said, I move first with Dig, and one-shot. The Hypno is ironically weaker because it doesn't have a powerful Psychic-type move, so after it survives on a Sliver, I polish it off using Body Slam, and now I am ready to take on Koga. Every Pokemon on his team is a bug type, so I have super effective damage with Rock Slide. Also, Rhydon is faster than all the Venonats, and Rock Slide is doing enough to take them all down in a single hit each. It's here that I should mention something about Venomoth, because in the past I have made a lot of mistakes with its typing. This was an intentional meme and joke on my channel for a very long time, because when I first started making these videos, I had no idea what type it was. If you go back and watch the earliest videos on my channel, you can tell that I think it's like a Psychic Flying type or something like that. So to preserve this meme, I made that my handle over on X. Follow me there if you're curious about behind the scenes updates whenever I have them. I do have to say though, constantly using this joke in my videos probably alienates a lot of viewers. Either you're really tired of it, or you're a new viewer and you're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And so I'll say now, as is required of me by Canadian law, that I'm sorry. I definitely do push jokes too far sometimes, and I'll make it up to you in the future. That footage was way too slow. Let's face Koga's ace, Venomoth. He just goes for an X attack with turn 1, which is useless, but Rock Slide misses. Okay, that's not great. The bug Poison type selects Psychic, which takes Rhydon down to orange health, but I hit it with Rock Slide and it survives? Okay, that's not good. With one more Psychic, Rhydon faints, and that's its second reset. I thought this wouldn't be a problem if I just don't miss Rock Slide against the Venomoth, but then I miss on the first Venonat, and because of his AI, it puts me to sleep with Sleep Powder, uses an X attack wasting time, but even that doesn't matter because it uses Psychic enough times to knock Rhydon out. I didn't even finish his first Pokemon. Okay, so let's do something else first. Really, the only other option is Silph. As I go through this area, let's play a little game. I'm going to evaluate the effectiveness of the training that I choose to participate in. The first trainer I fight is the guy with Machoke. By the way, perfect training. He is a 10 out of 10, so I'm getting full points for that one. But then I fight this scientist who has a Magnemite and a Coughing. He has terrible experience, so 1 out of 10 for that. 2 floors down, I fight a Rocket who has really good experience yields because he has 4 Pokemon on his team. And then I start to make a little pattern because I fight a guy with 2 Cubone and he's really bad. The next trainer I fight is really good. He has 4 team members, and I am regularly fighting him in modern runs today. But then, once again, I fight a trainer who only has 2 Pokemon, an Electrode and Muck, and he's not very good. After that, there isn't much to report because I face the mandatory guy with Arbok. Obviously, you have to fight him. And then after I pick up the Protein, I realized that I had not obtained Earthquake, so I go back to the 10th floor and grab this TM, teaching it to Rhydon in the place of Stomp. I fight 2 more optional trainers. The first one I call the Hypno Sandwich because there are 2 Raticates and right in the middle of them is a Hypno. People have said to me before, isn't this the Raticate sandwich? No, you don't call it a bread sandwich or a bagel sandwich. You call it a BLT or a turkey sandwich. By the way, the fantastic art which is featured on my channel is done by Serena Vale. Check their stuff out with the link in the description if you want to commission something yourself. The last trainer I fight is this scientist. He's fine in terms of experience yields. Now, he isn't actually the last trainer I fight because I do take 1 more on just so I can get a heal before I face the rival. Okay, level 39 Rhydon. I have not used any rare candies and I'm about to level up. Apparently Sandslash is Venomoth in this case because I use Rock Slide against it. This was obviously not a good choice. Then it goes for Sand Attack, lowering my accuracy. I figure out that I was making a mistake, use Earthquake, and I knock his lead out. Hilariously, at level 40, Rhydon has the chance to learn Fury Attack, which obviously is not a good move to teach it, and then the rival sends in Cloister. Rock Slide is my best choice here. It takes it to red health, and then the water type uses Clamp, which with one hit does half to Rhydon. And for the audio listeners out there, that was not with a crit, so the very next hit finishes the battle. I didn't want to use rare candies at this point because I was a little bit scared of Lorelei, so instead I dig out of Silph, fly back to Fuchsia City, and face Koga again. Because I'm a higher level, I didn't want to risk Rock Slide on the Venonats, and Earthquake is able to knock all of them out in one hit anyways. Last is Venomoth. It moves first, hitting Psychic, but it doesn't do half, and my Rock Slide gets the one hit. With the Soul Badge, my Rhydon now has a 12.5% boost to its speed stat. Before going back to Silph, I'll use the field move Surf to go to Cinnabar Mansion, where I can collect vitamins and also the TM for Blizzard. Okay, so now let's not mess up on the rival's Sand Slash. This time, I hit Earthquake, it doesn't use Sand Attack, and I finish it for free. I Rock Slide the Cloister, and Rhydon misses. Okay, of course. The Ice type uses Aurora Beam, which does about half, and my Rock Slide fails to knock it out. Luckily for me, it misses Clamp on the next turn, and I knock it out. Okay, so I just won because of that luck. I can one-hit the following Magneton. Well, maybe the Kadabra could knock me out, but in this case it doesn't. I one-shot it as well, and of course the last Flareon goes down to a single Earthquake. Once Giovanni is defeated, which by the way is very easy to do, I have to decide where I go next. The choice is between staying in Saffron City and having less backtrack time, or going to Cinnabar Island to face Blaine. And I thought that that was the better approach because I can train against the gym trainers to get more levels with Rhydon. This takes it up to level 44, and then I go up against the Fire type specialist. I think the only way I can lose this fight is if I get burned. In that case, I'll have my attack stat cut and probably won't one-hit his Pokemon. Plus, I'll take passive damage per turn, and the Rapidash could trap me in Fire Spin, which would compound the status effect's damage. Remember that Fire Spin can't cause a burn itself, so the Ninetales' Flamethrower is the only way I can get burned on the first two Pokemon. In this fight, I make it by both of them without the status condition. Arcanine has a higher chance to inflict burn because it has two moves that can cause it, and Fire Blast has a 30% chance. It goes for Flamethrower. This is only a 10% chance I don't get burned, and with Earthquake, I'm able to knock out his ace. Oh, I got a critical hit there. Nice. Let's continue with gym battles against Sabrina. This one is kinda messy for Rhydon because I can't outspeed any of her Pokemon. This allows the Abra to lower my accuracy, but I still hit the Kadabra, finishing it in one turn. All that's left is Alakazam. Sabrina uses an X-Defend, but remember, it's very frail to start with, and Rhydon gets another critical hit, so her ace goes down in one turn. There's only one more gym left. It is in Viridian City. I'm going to face the two mandatory trainers here, and then before Giovanni, since my Rhydon is only level 46, I think I should take a trip to the power plant to pick up one extra rare candy. With it, now let's see how Giovanni is. There are, quite frankly, a lot of ways for Rhydon to lose this fight. First up, the Dugtrio can crit with Dig or Earthquake, and it can also use Fissure. If that's not enough for you, it could use Sand Attack. In this case, I take about half and then knock it out. Persian can't really do much other than lower my defense, and with -2, his three final Pokemon are going to hit very hard with Earthquake. And they are going to get the opportunity because I am slower than all three. Well, that is if Giovanni doesn't just use a guard spec. After all, he is sponsored by them. The Nidoqueen goes down to a single hit from Earthquake. Next is Nidoking. It moves first, hits Earthquake, gets a crit, and Rhydon faints. I tried again, but this time I have lower health. Giovanni uses a guard spec on the Nidoqueen, so I do knock it out. He has one for every Pokemon, so he could use it on the Nidoking, but he doesn't, so I think I need to come up with an alternate approach for this battle. I've collected a total of 10 rare candies, and I'm going to use them all now to take Rhydon up to level 57 before trying again. Even 10 levels higher, I am not faster than the Nidoking. Of course, the Dugtrio and Persian are still faster, so they can mess me up. The Persian goes for Screech, which does lower my defense, but it also badge boosts my speed. I would have moved first against the Nidoqueen anyways, so it's a one-hit, but now I'm faster than the Nidoking, so I can knock it out for free. Okay, if I don't one-hit his Rhydon, it is going to use Earthquake, and I think I'll faint because my defense has been lowered. But I have 2 badge boosts on my side and a bunch of stat experience, and in this case that's enough to manage Giovanni's ace. Okay, it's time to face the rival on Route 22. First he has a Sand Slash, but this one doesn't know Earthquake yet, so it's not intimidating even though I don't one-shot. Executes next, I go for Rock Slide, knocking it out in 1 turn, and then the Rock move continues its spree, taking the Cloister down. Magneton falls to a single Earthquake, the Kadabra moves first, hitting Psybeam, but it doesn't do very much. So with that, I have arrived at his ace. It's Flareon, and this thing is slow, so Rhydon moves first, and with that, I have made it to Victory Road. I wanted to level up one more time before facing Lorelei, so I fight this Juggler. He has 4 Pokemon on his team. I figured this would be just enough, and by the time I take out the final Kadabra, I am so close to leveling up. That is quite frustrating. I don't want to waste more time and fight one wild Pokemon. After all, I would have to stall out my Super Repel, so let's just go into the Elite Four. Lorelei is first, and this one is a little bit weird. I have super effective damage, which is great, but she also has 4 times damage. The moves I am specifically terrified for are Cloister's Clamp and Slowbro's Surf. Of course, Lapras's Hydro Pump can be awful, but it does have a fairly significant chance to miss, plus I'm pretty sure I'm going to one-hit it with Rock Slide. That wasn't my assumption about the Cloister though. However, Rock Slide does get the job done. Next is Slowbro. This thing is going to use Withdraw on turn 2 due to AI modification 2, but Earthquake just crits so it goes down and doesn't even have a chance to roll for it. Jinx moves first, hitting Ice Punch, but it's not enough damage to knock Rhydon out, so I've made it to Lorelei's ace. All I need is for Rock Slide to not miss, and it doesn't, so I've made it to the second room in Indigo Plateau. This guy, who is obviously a Lost Hiker, is completely trivial for Rhydon to finish off, even though his fighting type Pokemon should be strong against me. Well, the Machamp survives my Earthquake, hits Submission, but my Rock type has high defense, so it doesn't do enough, and I win. Agatha's first Gengar has Mega Drain, and it goes for it turn 1, doing about half. That said, whenever I hit her Pokemon, I'm going to knock them out in a single hit. I get very unlucky against the following Golbat. It sets up Toxic, then I miss, and it uses Supersonic. I need to talk about a Generation 1 mechanic here, which is Poison does not do damage to your Pokemon if you knock the enemy out. That also means Toxic's counter doesn't stack up, and I realize there is a secondary benefit because now the Haunter, Arbok, and Gengar cannot inflict other status conditions. For example, paralysis or sleep. Because of the moves they know, there are really only 2 threats remaining. Number 1, Confusion, and number 2, the final Gengar's Psychic. While I am affected by the non-volatile status condition, I still knock out the Arbok and make it to her ace, and then it just tries to go for Dream Eater, which has no effect. I snap out of Confusion, hit Earthquake, and defeat Agatha. It's time to take on Lance, and I was very confident going into this fight because I am faster than the Gyarados. I was worried about having to tank a Hydro Pump, but I don't need to because Rock Slide can just knock it out. From there, Earthquake has guaranteed 1 hits on both Dragonairs, and I arrive at the Aerodactyl. While it's going to move first, I resist all of its attacks, and I can knock it out with a single Rock Slide. By the way, my Rhydon is critting a lot. It crit twice in this fight already. Last is Dragonite. It goes for Blizzard, and this does so much damage. That said, not enough to finish Rhydon off, so I get a Rock Slide in, and Dragonite survives? Okay, I didn't see that one coming. The Dragonite hits with another Blizzard, and that's it for me. It's fairly easy to make it back to Lance's ace, but in this case, Blizzard crits and Rhydon goes down in a single turn. In the third fight, I get to reroll damage for Rock Slide, and it does even less. It appears I underestimated what I needed to defeat Lance. 115 speed would be really nice right now. Don't worry, Rhydon still has options because I can use Ice Beam for 4 times damage. But get this, it does even less to the Dragonite. I find what follows extremely hilarious. Blizzard crits once, and then in the next fight it crits again. In the third fight, it crits once again. By the fourth fight, I figured this was going to stop, but no, it doesn't. Once again, the powerful Ice-type move crits, and Rhydon doesn't even get a chance to attack. If you're thinking that blocking out right now is the best choice, no, it's not. It will still just be faster to get a crit with Rock Slide, but I don't even need it because yes, I do have a roll that will give me the knockout out from full health. I did analysis of these damage ranges in post to see what my chance of knocking the Dragonite out was, and it was just under 50% with Rock Slide. I think I should have made it through that battle faster. Okay, so with the Elite Four out of the way, now let's take on the champion. Do you see the threat on his team? I hope you do. It's pretty much his entire team. First of all, the Sand Slash knows Earthquake. Ice Beam cannot one-hit it, and then the Ground-type move does about a third to Rhydon. The following Alakazam is faster, I have no way to move first, and it crits with Psybeam, getting an early knockout. Things are always going to be similar against the Sand Slash, but against the Alakazam, it's different because this time it uses Psychic. Rhydon survives, but it has its special lowered. This does badge boost my other stats, which is going to give me a little bit more damage against the Exeggutor. Because the Grass Psychic type has incredible special, I decided to go for Rock Slide. Rhydon crits and gets a one-hit, so no leech life here. Magneton is next, and it looks like I'm making a mistake here choosing Ice Beam, but I am doing this intentionally so that the electric type will use Screech to badge boost my attack one more time. With 2 badge boosts, I feel much more confident that I will one-shot the Cloyster using Rock Slide. But no, apparently that is not nearly enough. It survives with high red health, uses Ice Beam, and Rhydon faints. Okay, so I need to buy time against the Magneton to get more badge boosts in. I'll teach Rest in the place of Body Slam and try again. This fight starts off significantly worse because the Alakazam uses Kinesis, lowering my accuracy. That allows the Exeggutor to get set up with Leech Seed. It takes me a while to knock it out without a crit, and I was feeling pretty hopeless at this point, so I just knock the Magneton out, move on to the Cloyster. Maybe it'll miss Clamp or use Aurora Beam. In this case, it goes for Ice Beam, but Rhydon survives. However, the Ice move causes a freeze. By the 4th fight, I really have my strategy dialed in. For the Sand Slash, I'm using Ice Beam on turn 1, just in case the secondary effect gives me a free knockout. For Alakazam, I hope it doesn't one-hit me, and then against the Exeggutor, I'm going to use Ice Beam again, because with a freeze, I would prevent Leech Seed. In this case, I don't get it, so I just have to heal with Rest, and then knock it out using Ice Beam and Rock Slide. For the Magneton, I didn't want to go for the badge boosts because Leech Seed is on the field, so I just knock it out and move on to the Cloyster. After all, I will survive Ice Beam and Aurora Beam, so the only move it knocks me out with is Clamp. In this case, after surviving, it uses Aurora Beam, and then I knock it out with Rock Slide, finally making it to the Flareon, which easily goes down to Earthquake. In my first playthrough with Rhydon, I was able to get a time of 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 53 seconds with 17 resets at level 63. This is a game time of 3 hours and 53 minutes. For a final stage Pokemon, even though this was a first playthrough, these results are not very good. Granted, I did get quite unlucky against Lance, but Rhydon's growth rate in combination with its typing really holds it back. That's what I thought would be the case when I started making this video, and with a time significantly over an hour, I was wondering about its prospects for final tier list placement. If it can't get its time under an hour, then it will be in the D tier, alongside Pokemon like Jolteon, Drowsy, Wigglytuff, and Raichu. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe that is fitting. Exeggutor, Rhydon, and Raichu are sort of a little trio of Pokemon that are all fully evolved and don't perform very well. After taking 4 months off to think about the Pokemon and work on other projects, I came back to Rhydon on December 8th to do follow-up playthroughs. This is what I was able to discover. In the early game, I only want to train a little bit, so I'm going to fight the first bug catcher, the second bug catcher, and then the mandatory bug catcher. This levels Rhydon up to 8, and that is enough to face Brock. I did toy around with the idea of facing him at 6, but it ended up just being a little bit too risky, and I didn't like my chances. Plus, fighting 2 trainers in the early game doesn't really lose very much time. I'm still going to have a very fast first split. Using the strategies that I employed before, I'm able to clock in with a first split of 3 minutes and 38 seconds. Through the next section of the game, I'm going to discuss every single mandatory trainer so you get a sense for all of my experience and stat experience. This is because we are building towards 39 speed to face Misty. On Route 3, I face both the bug catcher and the Lass. Usually you choose between one of these two, but today I'm fighting both. I also fight the Lass on my way to Mount Moon, and then within the cave, I fight the bug catcher near the entrance, grab the TM for Water Gun, which is important, so I'm going to teach it to Rhydon now. Training continues fighting the Lass, Super Nerd, Bug Catcher, the other Lass, then the Rocket down the next ladder, the Junior Trainer, the Hiker using Water Gun, and finally the optional Rocket in the basement. This gives Rhydon level 18 to face the rival on Nugget Bridge. Overall, this fight is not noteworthy. I did not lose it once in all of my attempts, but it is possible with Sand Attack or Growl, maybe those two stacked together. However, the rock typing is really what makes Rhydon consistent here. After making it to Route 25, I resume fighting optional trainers. The first is this Hiker with Onyx. It has high base speed, and I want that stat experience. I fight the other Hiker because I have 3 quick knockouts against his Geodudes with Water Gun. At the end of the route, I fight the Youngster with Ekans and Sandshrew, and then I progress to the SS Anne. In the second cabin, 2 doors before the rare candy, I fight the Fisher as well as the Gentleman. He has a Voltorb, which again has good stat experience for speed. Note, after this battle, I do skip the Ether just because it wastes time. Rhydon doesn't need it. Technically, an optional battle is next against the Gentleman, but I really need to do this in order to get a rare candy. I'm also showing you this footage specifically because the Ponyta can burn Rhydon, and that happens in this run. It's quite rare that that happens, but I have picked up a full restore which is hidden in the tunnel between Cerulean City and Vermilion City, and that allows me to heal the status condition, which is really nice. Defeating the rival brings Rhydon close to level 26, but I still need to fight a few more optional trainers. To do that, instead of going to Diglett's Tunnel, I'm going to head to Route 11 to face 4 trainers. A Youngster, 2 Engineers, which have the Magnemite line, and finally a Gambler with another Voltorb, which has good speed stat experience. By the way, speed stat experience is actually really hard to say. It's a tongue twister. These battles aren't enough to level up to 27, but then, when I use Diglett's Tunnel to go back to Misty's gym, I have to face the mandatory Junior Trainer with Goldeen, and knocking it out will get me to 27 with 39 speed. This of course makes Staryu completely free. I can one-shot with Body Slam. For Misty's Ace, I need to go through the damage ranges because they're a little bit counterintuitive. Despite dealing 4 times damage, Bubble Beam will not one-shot Rhydon. With a regular hit, it deals between 80 and 94% damage. Therefore, with Starmie's crit rate of 22.27%, it is only going to knock me out roughly 1 in 5 times it chooses Bubble Beam, and it's already a 50% chance that it even chooses that move. Because of that, Rhydon has very good odds against Misty, and I'm able to finish her in my first fight. Now we're going to make a giant jump forward past all irrelevant trainers to face the Gambler on Route 8. By the way, every time I say which route this is, I always have to go and look it up because I never remember. As you can see, I didn't want to show you the fight against him. Instead, I want to show you the fight against this super nerd. He's fairly quick for Rhydon to defeat, and this is the first of many mid-game battles I'm going to do in order to level up. I continue training in the Rocket Hideout, fighting the 1 mandatory trainer to gain access to the area so I can get 1 more rare candy. In the department store, I buy 3 Carbos. This is specifically for the Dragonite. And then I head to Cycling Road, and now the bulk of the mid-game training begins. First, the biker with 4 Grimers, then the 2 trainers that make up the Wheezing duo, and that takes me into Silph. The Rocket with Machoke, both Rockets that have 4 Pokemon on their team, the guy that has Electrode and Muck, the Scientist with 5 Pokemon, the Scientist with 4 Pokemon, and the Scientist with 3 Pokemon. Conveniently, those 3 always come in that order, by the way. After that, I face the Hypno Rocket, who has custom art. Again, thank you, Serena Vale. All of this art is just so good. It brings so much personality to these random trainers. There are 3 more trainers I fight: the Healing Room Rocket, the Scientist, and finally the Hypno Sandwich. This grinding brings Rhydon up to level 39 for when it faces the rival. Doing these playthroughs, I was expecting to get at least 1 reset here. The Sandslash can make things messy with Sand Attack, but the Cloyster's Clamp deals between 47 and 55% damage with 1 hit. Because of that, if it chooses this move, I'm going to have to reset. That said, it also has Withdraw and Aurora Beam, so it can choose those moves instead. In this case, it goes for the Ice type attack, and I knock it out. That was Rhydon's biggest threat. The Magneton isn't an issue, but the Kadabra could crit with Psybeam, which would have caused a reset. In this case, it doesn't. I move on to the Flareon and one-shot with Earthquake. Next is the Celadon gym, where I face the Cool Trainer and then Erica. This fight, there is the possibility for a reset. If you miss Rock Slide on the Tangela and it uses Mega Drain, then you can lose. Also, if it gets a critical hit. I guess after that, there is the potential to Gen 1 miss on the Weepinbell or the Gloom, but that's very unlikely and there is no way to play around that. In the Fuchsia City Gym, I face both of the Tamers, and then I take on Koga. At level 44, Earthquake will one-hit all of the Venonats, so there's no reason to risk the accuracy on Rock Slide. Against the Venomoth, it makes sense to go for Rock Slide though, because it's going to be a one-hit if it connects, and in this case, it does. With access to Surf, I grab the rare candy from the power plant, and then I face Blaine, who in this case does burn me, which is really frustrating. Because I don't want to get messed up by Confusion or Fire Spin, I reset right away. I want to bleed the smallest amount of time. When he's not able to burn Rhydon, I sweep his team and move on to Sabrina. This fight is kind of frustrating. There's nothing I can do to make it more consistent. Essentially, it's all just going to be a gamble. In this case, it goes well for Rhydon and I don't have a reset. In the Viridian City Gym, you can see that I'm exactly level 46. I'm going to fight the 2 mandatory trainers, taking me to about halfway through the level, and then 1 optional black belt, as well as the cool trainer beside Giovanni, just to get to level 47. Because I picked up the rare candy in the power plant, I can boost Rhydon up to level 58 before facing Giovanni. Rhydon's damage ranges are simple to memorize. I have 1-hits against every single one of his Pokemon. Giovanni's Dugtrio will deal between 25 and 29% damage, with the chance to do 52 to 62% damage if it crits. The Persian Slash deals at max about 5%, so it's not really an issue. And then the 2 Nidos are doing around 1/3 with Earthquake if they attack. But only the Nidoking has a chance because I outspeed the Nidoqueen. When Rhydon does have to tank an Earthquake, the Nidoking gets a critical hit, and I am left with orange health. Good thing I'm faster than the Rhydon and I have a guarantee. You might think that Rival 6 would be a problem, and technically he is if Rock Slide misses, but if it doesn't, I have guarantees against both the Execute and the Cloyster. And that brings us to Victory Road, where I pick up the final rare candy and then face 5 trainers. The Cool Trainer Female and Cool Trainer Male in the first area, the Cool Trainer with Chansey, the Cool Trainer with the Victory Bell line, and finally the Black Belt with 3 fighting types. This experience brings Rhydon exactly to level 61. Please note my speed stat right now is 109. My goal, of course, is 115 to move first against the Dragonite. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I need to talk about Lorelei. This one is a bit of an unfortunate scenario. I have a guarantee against the Dugong, so I can avoid its Bubble Beam, but I only have a 49.58% chance to knock out the Cloyster in one hit. That said, my damage range is good enough that it's going to bring the Cloyster under 20% every time I hit it. In these instances, Lorelei has a 50% chance to use a Super Potion, which will replace whatever move Cloyster was going to use. This fact dramatically reduces the chance that it uses Clamp and allows me to move on to the Slowbro. And it's good I had that solution for the Cloyster because it won't work on the Slowbro, and this thing can use Surf on the first turn. If it does, it has a 49% chance to knock out Rhydon, but it can also just go for Withdraw and give me the knockout. From there, the Jinx is going to use Ice Punch, so if the Slowbro goes for Surf, just reset, because even if you survive, the Jinx is going to knock you out. Once I clear it, all that's left is Lapras. I have a guaranteed 1 hit, provided I don't miss. I think in the previous run I adequately explained Agatha. There is one strategy here that I could leverage that I'm currently not, and that is to use Substitute in the place of Dig. I should probably comment on that. My moveset is really weird. Earthquake, Rock Slide, Dig, and Body Slam. This is really a symptom of the fact that I have to be using physical moves, and Dig is useful in the field to escape certain areas. I don't want to have to pick up or buy escape ropes throughout the playthrough because that will slow me down. Also, as a ground rock type, I think I've said rock ground type in the reverse order previously in this video. It's really confusing. Anyways, as a ground rock type, Earthquake and Rock Slide paired together basically solves every single problem I have, and Mimic doesn't really give me any advantages other than this one specific fight. And in this instance, it slows me down because I have to take more turns in battle. We also have to remember all the frames that are required to buy the extra Pokédoll and then get the TM from Copycat and also teach it to Rhydon. Plus the fact that obtaining this item might mess up my inventory management and make it just slightly more cumbersome. I checked to see if that was the case, and no, picking up Mimic won't force me to drop an item, which would take more actions, but it is still a little bit out of the way. I wanted to avoid all of this bloat in time, plus Rhydon is still quite good against Agatha because the only super effective damage she has is Mega Drain, and that's on the first Gengar. With that battle finished, I feed my Rhydon 1 rare candy, and it has 114 speed? Are you kidding me? I I actually didn't know what my mistake was here, so I just decided to play the Lance fight with less speed, and then Rock Slide misses on Gyarados, and its Hydro Pump, which it is forced to use, is always going to one-hit, so that's a reset. While we get to Lance's Dragonite, let me discuss exactly why I don't have exactly 115 speed. First of all, this is 100% player error, actually planning error in this case. I reconfigured some mid-game trainers so that I didn't have to face quite as many to get the same level at the end of the game. Turns out the stat experience was slightly different between the trainers, which gave me one less speed for Lance. And after figuring out that I could fight less trainers, I just assumed that I would have the correct speed at Dragonite because I was the same level. So whoops, that's my mistake, but it shouldn't matter because I have an 81% chance to knock out the Dragonite with Rock Slide. And it will survive its Blizzard, provided it doesn't get a critical hit. And yeah, that's what happens in this case, it crits, so Rhydon gets a very frustrating player-induced reset. By the way, this was my 4th playthrough with Rhydon, and I had only budgeted time to do 3 in December. As we go back into the next fight and see me defeat the Dragonite as should have happened the first time, note the time. It's 48 minutes and 44 seconds. There is a chance that I am going to get a sub 50 Rhydon even with this mistake. The only thing that stands in my way is the entire Champions team, which is always very frustrating. I need to hope that I get good luck against the Alakazam and it doesn't crit or use Kinesis. Well, it can use Kinesis provided it misses. I move on to the Executor, and then I noticed that I had not taught Rhydon Rest. This was quite literally my plan. Against the Champion's Cloyster, I have a 7% chance to knock it out in 1 turn with Rock Slide, and an 82% chance to knock it out in 2 turns. With just 2 badge boosts from the Magneton, I would be able to knock it out in 1 turn with a 66% chance. And if I got 1 more Screech, which is the maximum number, I would knock it out in 1 turn. I was a bit frustrated with the fact that I had forgotten this move, but I don't want to reset now because the timer is getting close to 50 minutes and I still might be able to do it. The answer here is just hope the Cloyster doesn't use Clamp. And in this case, it goes for Ice Beam, taking Rhydon down to 11 hit points, and then I'm able to finish it off. Flareon is last. I was terrified that it was going to crit with Quick Attack, but it doesn't choose this move, and Rhydon clocks in with a final time of 49 minutes and 39 seconds. With 3 resets at level 65, this is with a game time of 3 hours and 13 minutes. I was really happy with how much time I was able to remove from this playthrough. As things currently stand, Rhydon is able to earn itself a placement not in the D tier, not the C tier, not the B tier, but at the very end of the A tier just behind Jinx and Pinsir. That is much better than I was expecting when I first sat down to record this video. We'll have to wait until sometime next year or maybe 2025 to see how Golem compares. I'm very sorry, like I said before, I just don't have time for it during this busy season. So that's it for Rhydon, and now I want to take time to thank everyone involved with the channel. After all, we are getting very close to the end of the year. This isn't the Academy Awards, so I can speak for as long as I want, and that probably accounts for this extremely long runtime on a solo video. I'm sure all of you have noticed that. Okay, so let's get to thanking everyone. Who am I kidding? Of course I had to do a playthrough with Golem. No, not just 1 playthrough, 4 in total, because I needed the same number as Rhydon. So let's jump into the final one and see what time this rock ground type with the medium slow growth rate was able to get. While we get going, we have to talk about the comparison between these 2 Pokemon because I didn't go through it earlier. To make things easier, I will show you Rhydon's stats on the right-hand side of the screen. It's gonna look kinda janky, I apologize for that. For base stats, Golem has 80 HP, 110 attack, 130 defense, 55 special, and 45 speed, giving it an 8.59% chance to crit. So the trade-offs here are quite interesting. It has 25 less HP, but it has 10 more defense. It has 20 less attack, but 10 more special, and 5 more speed. Of course, Rhydon has the higher base stat total, but Golem makes up for that with the fact that it has the medium slow growth rate. Now for Movepool, we're going to switch, so Rhydon's will be on the left-hand side of the screen so you can easily compare. The starting set is so much worse for Golem, Tackle, and Defense Curl. That being said, this is only bad in the earliest portions of the game because beating Brock is going to be slower, but later on I am going to be able to use Defense Curl to trigger the badge boost glitch to improve all of my stats. Golem has a far superior level up learn set. At 16 it gets access to Rock Throw, and then at 36 it gets Earthquake. Rhydon obviously has a better TM and HM learn set, but that's really just theoretical, because I couldn't find an instance where it was the right choice for it to be using a special move. As a result, these two Pokemon are essentially just locked into Earthquake and Rock Slide for a majority of the playthrough. Basically, the question we are asking is, will the growth rate, the small difference in stats, and the ability to badge boost give Golem a better time? In Viridian Forest, Golem's starting set is definitely going to hold it back. In order to be able to defeat Brock, even though I'm a rock type, I need to be level 13, which is much higher than Rhydon. With Tackle and Defense Curl, earning the experience required is actually inconsistent. I have to face the first Bug Catcher and the second Bug Catcher, and hope that I make it through these two fights with around 15 or 16 PP. If I'm lower than that, then the rest of the forest is going to be really sketchy, and it is safer to go back to Viridian City to heal. As a rock type, I did experiment with fighting the rival on Route 22 to gain a little bit more experience, but that fight wastes more time overall because the Spearow usually lowers your attack with Growl, and then the Eevee loves to use Sand Attack, delaying things even more. Making it through the fight with 15 PP, I catch myself a Pidgey, that's where one of the PP went, and then I face the next Bug Catcher, and after defeating his 2 bugs, Golem should have somewhere between 5 and 7 uses of Tackle left. The reason a lot of this is approximate is because Tackle has a 95% accuracy, and I don't have guarantees for my damage ranges against these bugs. The final Bug Catcher in the forest, I have an 86% chance to knock out his Caterpie in 3 hits. So starting the fight with 6 PP gives me some margin for error, and because of that, Golem makes it through the forest. Now it isn't even level 12 yet, but that's okay because inside Brock's gym, I can face the junior trainer. His Diglett takes me up to level 12, and halfway towards level 13. Once I finish off the Sandshrew, I gain enough experience due to my medium slow growth rate to reach level 13 and face Brock. Do note before this fight, I healed because I need all of the PP I can get just in case Tackle is inconsistent and I miss. It's going to take me somewhere between 8 and 12 turns to knock out the Geodude, and then 13 to 19 turns to knock out the Onix. Despite Golem being faster than Rhydon, it is not faster than Brock's Onix, meaning every time he chooses Bide, it will deal some damage to Golem. That being said, in these situations I get to use Defense Curl, which is actually advantageous for me because then his Screeches are less effective. You might think that with Tackle, Bind, and Bide, he would eventually knock Golem out, but the fact that the player is just more consistent using Tackle every turn means that ordinarily Golem makes it through this fight. Over the course of getting 4 finished attempts with Golem, I only lost to Brock once. Okay, so let's be specific about all the trainers I'm going to fight. In this case on Route 3, I fight the Lass, but I'm doing this for a different reason than usual. In this case, I want the experience from her so that I can learn Rock Throw before facing the Bug Catcher. Now, this Rock type move is kinda trash, it has 65% accuracy, but it does give me a chance to one-shot the Kakuna and the Metapod even if they use Harden. Overall, this makes the experience faster even though the move is very inconsistent. I continue by fighting the mandatory Bug Catcher and then the Lass later on the route. I'm going to show this battle just so the art can be on screen for a little bit because I love it so much. Also, I do want to note the Jigglypuff can be annoying with both Sing and Disable, but it's not going to knock out Golem because its only attacking move is Pound. Now over the next section of the game, I really want you to pay attention to the number of trainers that I fight. In Mount Moon, I start by taking on the Super Nerd. In this case, we should really examine the damage ranges because now Golem is doing more than Rhydon was at this portion of the game, so it's going to be moving through battles just a little bit faster. Against the Magnemite, I have a 43.67% chance to one-hit using Rock Throw, and yes, that does factor in the accuracy. Comparing that with Tackle's damage range, which is a 32.59% chance to 2-hit, obviously Rock Throw is the better choice, even though it can miss. And once I make it to the Voltorb, things are much better, because Rock Throw now has a 65% chance to one-hit. Following that battle, I grab the rare candy, and then I face the Bug Catcher. After this, I grab the TM for Mega Punch and teach it to Golem right away. This is now going to be its go-to move, and I'm going to do some optional fighting. The Rocket in this area, who is actually very important, this youngster, and finally this Rocket just before the mandatory trainers. After defeating Jesse and James, my Golem is level 21. Against the rival in Cerulean City, it has a guaranteed one hit with Mega Punch, a roughly 74.5% chance to knock out the Sandshrew in 2 hits, a guarantee against the Rattata, and a 75% chance to 2-hit on the Eevee. As a rock type, I'm not really scared about anything in this battle, so let's proceed. At the end of Route 25, I only face one optional trainer. This removes both of the hikers that Rhydon faced here. With Golem, it just doesn't make sense to fight them, after all it doesn't have any water type moves. Outside of the city, I get the TM for Dig. Please note here my experience bar as well as my speed. I teach Dig to Golem right away, and then use it to defeat the junior trainer's Goldeen, which levels me up to 26, where Golem has 40 speed. So while fighting less trainers, I am going to be able to defeat Misty at an earlier time when compared to Rhydon. Also, Golem has higher special, which means Bubble Beam only has a 60% chance to knock me out. In this case, there is another way that I can lose, and I didn't talk about that during the Rhydon playthrough. Misty can use an X defend, which allows Starmie to survive a hit and attack. In this case, it goes for Bubble Beam, gets a critical hit, and Golem has 1 reset. That said, in the next battle we get to see what happens with Bubble Beam if it doesn't crit, and in this case Golem survives with 6 hit points, uses Dig, and knocks Misty's ace out. Mega Punch 1 hits Sandy's birds, and then on the SSN, I'm gonna get the TM for rest. Here, because I have enough speed to move first against Misty's Staryu, I am also gonna move first against this Staryu. It has the exact same stats. If you're wondering why a random Sailor's Staryu is the exact same as Misty's, the reason is that in these games, all opponent trainer Pokemon have the exact same DVs and 0 stat experience. Just because I like detail, and you might not already know, these DVs are 9 in attack and 8 in everything else. By the way, the only reason the attack DV is 9 is just because the HP DV is calculated based on your other DVs, and it only has values added to it if your DVs are odd, so they needed the attack DV to be odd so that the HP DV could be 8. If you were watching, you would have saw me teach Body Slam, Smash the Rival, and Surge. Even with a lower attack stat, Golem is still strong enough to smash all of the Rapping Lasses Pokemon in a single hit, and the self-destructing Hiker is easy to manage using Dig. Okay, so it's time for the mid-game. Let's talk about the optional training. I fight the Super Nerd on Route 8, just like I did with Rhydon, as well as the Rocket in the game corner to get the rare candy in the hideout. In the department store, I'm going to grab Rock Slide, and then I buy Protein, because Golem does not need more speed. So that's an advantage it has because of its base stat distribution. I teach Rock Slide in the place of Rock Throw, crush the rival in Pokemon Tower, and without Carbos, I'm able to defeat the Chandler because I'm outspeeding. Cycling Road is where the optional training begins. I'm going to fight the Grimer guy, and then the Wheezing duo. After that, I go to Silph and face all the same trainers that Rhydon faced. That being said, when I started the rival battle with it, I was level 39, but Golem is level 42. What's happening here is it's making up for its lower base stats with faster levels. And this fight is also the first time that I'm going to use another one of its advantages. Defense Curl. Because I have Brock's badge, whenever I use this move it boosts my defense, but it also compounds the badge boost on top of itself. This raises my attack stat, and this is very important, because with 2 defense curls, I'm gonna one-hit the Cloyster with Rock Slide. With Rhydon, we saw how the Cloyster can really mess you up, and Golem doesn't have that disadvantage. The only problem with this strategy is the fact that I had to sit in battle against the Sandslash, giving it more time to set up with Sand Attack. In the Fuchsia City Gym, I face the 2 optional Tamers, and then I go up against the Gym Leader. As was the case for Rhydon, Earthquake has 1 hits on all the Venonats, and I'm going to be able to one-hit the Venomoth using Rock Slide. Oh, by the way, this thing is a grass-water type, so it's really scary for Golem to face, but today I get a critical hit, so it's lucky that I made it past it. On the way to Cinnabar Island, I fight the Fisher for great experience, and then I take on the Cool Trainer in Erica's gym and smash her. The only way to lose here is missing, so Rock Slide against the Tangela, or a Gen 1 glitch on both the Weepinbell and the Gloom. Golem completely crushes Blaine, and then against Sabrina, I have essentially the same scenario that I had with Rhydon. Golem might have 5 more base speed, but that is not nearly enough to move first against these Pokemon. I could use Defense Curl to boost my speed against, say, the Abra, but it would use Flash against me in that instance, and I would have less accuracy. In the end, it's quite simple. The most reliable strategy is just to spam Earthquake and cross your fingers. Coming out of that fight, Golem has almost leveled up to 50. The first mandatory trainer in Viridian City Gym levels me up, and then I use 10 rare candies to get Golem to level 60. So for the fight against Giovanni, it is 2 levels higher than Rhydon was, plus it did not have to spend the 40 seconds required to pick up the rare candy from the power plant. Golem can lose to a Fissure on turn 1, or take damage from Earthquake, Dig, or get annoyed by Sand Attack. In this case, Giovanni uses a guard spec, which is like the best possible scenario. Overall, I want the Dugtrio to either miss with Fissure or use Dig or Earthquake. Sand Attack is what I want to avoid. Of course, the following Persian is not a threat at all. From there, I have an outspeed on the Nidoqueen and the Nidoking, although the second one is only by 3 points. In this battle, I get to the Rhydon with full health, and at level 60, my Earthquake is a guarantee. Now, if you wanted proof that Golem is really good, please watch this rival battle on Route 22. After the Giovanni fight, I know that I'm not going to level up during this battle, and the Sandslash has nothing that can do good damage to Golem. This gives me a free turn of setup with Defense Curl, boosting my speed so that I move first against the Kadabra. From there, Earthquake 1 hits the Sandslash, Rock Slide 1 hits the Execute, as well as the following Cloyster, and then I can go back to the ground type move for the final 3 Pokemon. And yeah, Golem just crushes all of them. Someone is going to ask in the comments, because I feel like this happens on every single one of my videos, Scott, why didn't you use the Vaporeon team so that it was harder on Golem? And yes, this is a fair question that I cannot address in every single one of my videos, because all of you would get so bored listening to me repeat it. So here's the explanation. The rival chooses his team based on the outcome of the first 2 battles in the game, and in order for him to pick Vaporeon, you have to lose in the lab. What's the chance that Golem loses in the lab? Well, you could spam Defense Curl until the EV knocks you out, but that doesn't seem like a good play if you're aiming for the fastest real-time completion. The fact of the matter is that in Pokemon Yellow, the rival's team is not selected so that it'll be strong against your starter. It is selected based on the first battles, and as a player, I have control over them. So that's why, in the case of both of these Pokemon, Flareon is just the fastest team to fight. In Victory Road, I fight 3 trainers. First, the Cool Trainer at the beginning of the area, and then the 2 Cool Trainers at the end of the area. The first one has the Bellsprout line, and the second one has 3 water types. Don't worry, Golem has outspeeds and 1 hits against all of these Pokemon. So that brings us to the Elite Four. As I start off the fight against Lorelei, I want everyone to note the time. It is 41 minutes and 40 seconds. This is one fight where Golem requires a small amount of luck. The Dugong has a chance to use any one of its moves, with a higher probability for Bubble Beam and Aurora Beam on turn 1. The worst case scenario here is that it uses one of these moves and gets a stat drop. Aurora Beam can drop my attack by 1 stage, and Bubble Beam will drop my speed by 1 stage. If either of these scenarios happens, I will just reset right away to ensure that I move on to the rest of her Pokemon with full stats. Because of this, there is 1 reset today, but then in the next battle, I use Defense Curl and Aurora Beam doesn't lower my attack. Because of the badge boost, I have an outspeed on Jinx and a 1 hit on the Dugong, Cloyster, Jinx, and Lapras. The Slowbro has a 50% chance to use Surf, and if it does, I will lose. It doesn't actually matter how much I badge boost against the Dugong, it's always going to knock me out. In this battle, Lorelei uses a Super Potion, so I'm able to knock it out for free. From there, I 1-hit the Jinx, as well as the following Lapras, and Golem is moving on to the next trainer. You would think his team would be somewhat good against Golem. He has Ground, Ice, and Fighting type moves. But no, Golem is faster than everything, has 1 hits on his first 4 Pokemon, and even though his Machamp will survive, if it uses Submission, it cannot 1-hit. Agatha's next, and by far her first Gengar is the most intimidating. In this case, it uses Confuse Ray, Golem hits itself, Gengar uses Mega Drain, and then the Rock type knocks itself out. Even having Mimic to steal Substitute wouldn't have helped me in that case. The reason I'm not using Substitute is that after the first Gengar, it really isn't that helpful. I outspeed the Golbat and the Arbok and speed tie the Haunter. The only way Golem can lose here is if the Haunter or Gengar put it to sleep using Hypnosis, and Substitute wouldn't block that. I win on my second attempt, and now let's face Lance. This fight is very simple. If you miss on the Gyarados and it hits Hydro Pump, Golem is going to lose. But if the Rock move successfully connects, then I'm going to knock it out in 1 hit. Both of the Dragonairs are also guarantees, which leads to the Aerodactyl. Here I make a strategic choice to improve my odds. With only my default badge boost, Rock Slide has a 54% chance to knock out the Dragonite in 1 turn. I did not like those odds, so I used Defense Curl accidentally twice. I only need 1, and by doing this, I have the guarantee as long as I connect with the Dragonite. And in this case, Rock Slide does, so Golem has made it to the champion before 45 minutes. I use my last rare candy, and now it's time for the final fight. The only important damage range in this entire fight is Rock Slide against Cloyster. Without setup, I have just under an 8% chance to knock it out in 1 turn. That is unacceptable because Clamp is going to do massive damage, between 43 and 50% damage with each hit. To play around this, I can boost with Defense Curl on the Sandslash, and I need a total of 4 of these to ensure the 1 hit on the Cloyster. The reason I have Rest on my set is just in case I need to heal against the Sandslash because it gets a critical hit with Earthquake. When it does doesn't, I don't want to waste time here. It gives it more time to crit, so I just knock it out with a single Earthquake. Because of the badge boost glitch, Golem is faster than Alakazam and can one-hit with Earthquake. Against Exeggutor, I do a bad play objectively and set up 2 more defense curls and then use Rest. I should not have done this. The far better play would be just knocking it out with Rock Slide. Because from there, the Magneton is a one-hit using Earthquake, and I don't miss on the Cloyster, so it goes down too. That leaves only Flareon, but Golem is faster, hits Earthquake, and it goes down. The other rock ground type clocks in with a final time of 45 minutes and 17 seconds. With 3 resets at level 68, this is a game time of 2 hours and 56 minutes. Okay, I'm sure all the Golem fans are rejoicing right now because of course it is faster than Rhydon as I predicted. And it's not faster by a little bit, it is faster by a significant margin. Golem's results come close to a lot of other really fantastic Pokemon. It is only 12 seconds behind the Vaporeon run that I did last year, and it is faster than Mr. Mime, Clefable, and Ninetales. With these fantastic results, it earns itself the 2nd place in the A tier. Looking at the tier list as things stand right now, it is appearing to become slightly top-heavy. The most populated tier is the A tier with 15 total Pokemon. The S tier is just behind it with a total of 12 Pokemon, and deceptively the C and D tier are in 3rd place with 11 Pokemon in each. These ones just take up less horizontal space than the Pokemon in the S tier. The time ranges that I use to rank Pokemon on the right-hand side of the screen are really just arbitrary. I want these time ranges to be fairly intuitive. I don't want a time like 41 minutes and 25 seconds. That doesn't make any sense. But I am going to try to rebalance things in the tier list starting in 2024 so that it is a little bit less top-heavy. I really feel that Pokemon that have a sub 40-minute time deserve to be recognized for their outstanding achievement. So far, there are only 4 Pokemon that have done this: Victreebel, Hypno, Slowbro, and Gengar. But don't worry, many more will join them. And maybe, just maybe, before the end of this year, we will have a few more. Because this is the penultimate yellow video of the year, and throughout all of 2023 we have been building towards something. I started the entire year with the flying type Doduo. I also did re-ranking streams for Pidgeot and Fearow, 2 other flying types. In the middle of the year, I fittingly did a middle stage flying type Pidgeotto, and now, to conclude the year and bring everything full circle, I'm going to do more flying types, 3 more in fact. So stay tuned for my next yellow video, which is the legendary birds. I think it is going to be absolutely awesome. Daily December continues tomorrow with a playthrough of Fire Red using the Dragonite line, and yes, it will be starting as Dratini. If you support me on YouTube or Patreon, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you are incredible and you deserve a treat, so let's face Professor Oak. For Golem, this fight is incredibly easy. Professor Oak's first Pokemon, Tauros, has Leer and Tail Whip. In combination with my Defense Curl, I can badge boost to an absolutely ridiculous level. Before the Tauros locks itself into Rage, I am able to badge boost 4 times with the enemy's moves. This means by the time I max out my Defense Curl setup, I have 999 attack and defense. In Generation 1, this is the maximum value, and because Golem's speed stat is 637, it's gonna move first against all of his Pokemon. So even though Oak has Blastoise and Gyarados, I'm not really concerned. Earthquake knocks out the water starter in a single hit, and all that's left is Gyarados. I was worried that Rock Slide would miss, but I wasn't worried that I was going to make a misclick here and select Earthquake. Of course, this doesn't affect Gyarados. It goes for Hydro Pump, but because Golem badge boosted its special, it shrugs off the water type move, hits Rock Slide, and knocks Gyarados out. This Pokemon performed so much better than I thought it would throughout this entire game. On the other hand, Rhydon was predictably underwhelming. It doesn't have a way to badge boost itself like Golem did, so Oak is more challenging. I have to knock out the Tauros in 2 hits, as well as the following Exeggutor, and for it I'm using Rock Slide. Luckily it has no special moves, so I move on to the Arcanine. It uses Leer. This is very important, by the way, because this move badge boosted me at the perfect time to move first against both the Blastoise and the Gyarados. However, I still need luck because the first water type survives an Earthquake, but it just goes for Withdraw, giving me 1 more turn to knock it out. Last is Gyarados. Rock Slide doesn't miss, and with that, Rhydon has beat Oak. That's it for this one. I'll see you in tomorrow's video.